you guys recently took on a private equity partner. How has that changed the way you operate, the way you think about growth, how you
Sure.
tackle things?
So there's things that change for the better and things that become more challenging. For the better, I mean, we're not a huge company, right? We're about 60 people. We've been on a steady trajectory of growth, but we've always been very conscious of not overhiring. We've been unique in the sense that up until recently, we've been profitable every single year. We've done that on the back of no debt, on the back of doing good work, on the back of clients that pay us to do the work. So it took some getting used to of like, oh, hey, now we've got a partner here that it's going to change how we operate. So on the positive side, maybe a bit boring and tedious, but valuable is the level of reporting and financial rigor that we now go through. When you're an entrepreneur, you're like, I want to do what I want every single day when I wake up. That's not the world anyone really lives in. It's helpful to have direct accountability to a board, to a financial partner that's like, no, you got to report that way at this frequency. We've always been pretty good on the financial management side. We've been operating profitably, so good enough. But as far as reporting and planning and future looking of, what does 2026 look like? How do we build a hiring plan against that? How do we build our expansion plan? They forced a structure that I think is net positive to us. It's a rigor we need. I think every company that goes through a life cycle, you're pre-revenue, you're trying to figure out product market fit, you care a little bit less about financial reporting on a quarterly basis. And then years go by, real money starts coming into the business. Then I got to organize a little bit differently. I got to change the systems that manage this operational detail and financial reality. It's just a step function change to our rigor in the business. I think that's been very net positive. And on the negative side, there really almost hasn't been. I think obviously private equity gets a little bit of a bad rap. It's not been our experience. It truly hasn't. And we're working with a Canadian partner. Maybe that plays a role. But there is an appreciation that we're in growth mode, not in let's squeeze every nickel. None of that happens at all. Their focus is as you'd want a good partner and investor to be, which is what can we bring to help you accelerate your growth? That's the truth. You walk into this type of financial arrangement wondering how it's going to play out day to day. And whatever fears people have of that sector of financing just has not played out in our reality. In addition to private equity investment, there's other investors that came in as well, individuals for the most part, who have joined the board. An investor working for a private equity firm is great on the financial management side, but there's other aspects that new partners and board members can bring to the table, which is more strategic. Some of our board members have worked all over the world and in positions all over the world. It's allowed us to open a few more doors that maybe weren't open to us in the past. It's been a great transition and a great working relationship thus far.
That's fantastic. Now, I do know that board, as well as yourself as CEO, are very focused on growth, and you're leveraging acquisitions to do that. So what for you specifically has been kind of the guiding star to choose which companies you want to acquire? Anything specific about their culture or other that you're looking for?
It's a good question. I mean, I think there's a couple of things that we're really thinking about. Some of them are just why now is probably the first question. Why acquisition at this moment in time? On a macroeconomic basis, whether it's tariffs in the US or, coming out of COVID and high inflation, et cetera, there's several years of weird macroeconomic conditions that are still in flux. In that flux, there's opportunity. What we identified at this moment is that there are some organizations that are really floating to the top that are doing really well. And we've been fortunate that we've grown largely organically. We grow every year a bit above the previous year and profitably, as I mentioned earlier. And other organizations have different tailwinds and headwinds. And some of the organizations that I think have great products, great clients, great offering, really are looking for how do we accelerate as well. And they know that things like AI and analytics are tough spaces to crack, and they need them in their business. The organizations we're looking at have great businesses, great growth trajectory, but they've been around for a bit and recognize that this is a moment in time where macroeconomic conditions are strange and going to be destabilized for a while. And a huge amount of industry flux around innovation is going to occur. And so I either need to build that myself and make investments that I maybe didn't think I had to make a year prior, or partner with those in a position to make those investments with me. And so we're looking at existing businesses that are complementary to the businesses we have. We do market research, analytics, and some digital performance marketing. So things that fit into that sort of cadre of services that have great clients, great teams, and they know it's a moment of change. And the buy versus build equation they're doing in the calculus they're doing in their mind. Those that are like, I think it's time to join together and bring all these clients, all these services in a consolidated way so we can capitalize on the innovation that's happening. Companies that recognize that are attractive to us. We're in talks with some digital marketing organizations, some market research organizations that recognize that great business, been around for a bit. If I want to scale, I think I got to get bigger faster because the top performers will rise to the top. Some will fall at the bottom and they want to be on the top. So those are the types of organizations we're looking at.
I know your acquisition strategy well, having worked with you for some time now. What would you say are the major hurdles or challenges you've had with either the PE partner coming in, so that transactional process, or the ones you're currently undertaking?
I mean, you know this intimately, so I can't lie to you. The truth is, we're not that big and they're not that big either. What you realize in the process is when you're trying to change the engine of the plane while you're flying, it's a lot to bite off. We have growth expectations. We have a board we're responsible to. We have employees we're responsible for. And so we got to keep bringing in revenue. We have to keep running this thing that we've built. And we don't have the luxury of layers and layers of management. So I don't have an M&A team and a huge finance team. I've got a small team that's run the business. They do too. They're generally even smaller. So we're not big. And so when you're getting together to do the things you need to do to make a deal happen and everyone feel that it's properly structured and it's set up for success over multiple years, there's a level of detail you need. And it's been hard to get to that detail because everyone's running their business. They're out there. I got a client meeting. I got a pitch. But they're also the same people. They're like, get me your pro forma financial statements from 3 years ago. They don't work like that. And we don't work like that. And so we've got to come together at this moment in time and say, look, we're going to have to operate as if we have 1,000 employees and do this work at this level of detail, this level of rigor. Small businesses aren't organized for this. It's not been strategic. From a strategy perspective, we've got great companies we're looking at. They're aligned in the vision we're painting for them. They're enrolled in that vision. Now it's just getting it done. And I know it's not probably the sexiest answer, but it's like you realize the level of detail and work to make a large deal happen. Not large in the grand scheme, but large to us. It's a lot. And we're doing a couple at the same time. I don't think we've yet bitten off more than we can chew, but it's a consideration. How many can we do at the same time? How many can we do in a year? You have to level set your ambition for operational reality. The toughest part is it's not been strategic. It's not been a lack of opportunities. It's not been the people. It's really just been hours in the day and getting it done in a way that allows us to compare apples to apples across all the things that we're trying to bring together. So that's been probably the biggest challenge for us.
What advice would you give to entrepreneurs that are looking at doing this type of process? What can be helpful to navigate that?
All entrepreneurs, I put myself in this category, think they can do all jobs really well all the time. And it's just not true, right? So I think one of the things that I probably didn't do well out of the gate was like thinking I'm a finance expert and an HR expert and a digital strategist. I'm not all of those things. I can dabble and talk to them, but you got to bring in the right people faster. Working with you, Allison, we've done some deals where you got brought in later, some deals where you got brought in from the start, bringing the right people right off the hop. And small companies are always conscious of, the bills they're cutting to lawyers, accountants, and everybody else. You try to minimize that and do it yourself. I'll be an accountant today. I'll be a CFO tomorrow. I'll be a lawyer the next day. You're wasting, you got to value your own time. And I didn't do that well. So I'd look at it and say, look how much time I spent on this. I get a salary, I get paid, I'm a cost. You have to take the intrinsic and opportunity costs as well as the external costs and figuring out how to get these things done quickly. So just like bite the bullet and bring the right people in right off the hop. It'll save you so much more time and energy down the road. The other thing I've learned, if you're talking about entrepreneurs looking at smaller businesses, big mergers and acquisitions are excluded from this. For smaller ones, if you're sort of the one who's bringing and consolidating and you've got more resources, be it finance, legal, whatever it might be, use them to help the companies you're trying to bring into the fold. They don't have it. And you can waste a lot of time realizing they don't have an HR department because there's like 9 people there. Like, why would they? It's ridiculous. So just, do it for them. If it's in organizing the employment contracts, everyone's swimming towards the same goal. You always want to get there fast. You don't want to spend a year negotiating the nuance of a deal, which can easily happen. Speed's your friend. And if that means you just have to dig in and log into their accounting system with them beside you and get everything organized, then just do it. there's a lot of trust involved in that. The first step is making sure that the people you're trying to bring into the fold trust you enough to allow you into their walls. Everything will go faster. I've learned those lessons the hard way. Be much clearer on what needs to get done when it needs to get done so that you could all just get back to the jobs that your main day job versus getting these deals done. So a bit of non-advice, maybe a bit obvious, but it's a big learning for me of experts in right away and then just offer as much help to the smaller company that you're looking to bring into the fold to get them organized because they're busy just running their companies.
Yeah. Focus, momentum, and trust.
For
Three
sure.
key elements for any transaction to succeed. Let's talk a little bit about culture, if you don't mind, because one of the things that happens a lot of times when you're merging together these smaller entities, you lose that entrepreneurial spirit, that
Yeah.
feel, or your own historic culture. What have you found that works or doesn't work to preserve that? And what suggestions do you have around that topic?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I may have to come back to another podcast to tell you how it all plays out because we haven't closed these transactions yet. But so I don't know. I don't exactly know. I could tell you how we've done it with just expansion of the company that we have now. It's not, it actually really isn't very easy. I don't have a cultural silver bullet. One of the things when we took on this investment, which is a big shift for us, we've been operating for a decade like this. We've got close work relationships with people that have been at the company for a really long time. And this was going to be a major shift in how we work, our ambitions for the future, the growth trajectory, the amount of new faces that would walk in. The biggest thing that I would say culturally is we have a hyper transparent internal policy. So whether it's the terms of the deal, the financials of the company, we share it all. So internally, we try to maintain a high trust environment. We take everyone through all of our financials, how we're performing quarterly, where we're losing money, where we're quite profitable, lines of business are doing well, they're doing less well. And so part of the culture is making sure everyone feels enrolled in the whole thing. I think people will say, get everyone aligned around missions and values. You definitely need to do that, but that's kind of table stakes. The next layer behind that is actually enrolled in the operations of the business, like where people can see financially where things are going, where investments are being made, why decisions are happening the way, why did we take investment? What do we hope to do with it? What's the roadmap? What will it look like on the other side? The good, the bad, and the ugly. I hope people at DS would feel that that's what we do well. That's been our stab at taking to try to maintain the culture of make sure that people just really know what's going on. There aren't decisions made by the invisible hand somewhere off in the distance. Well, there was some trepidation around having a board, having investors, and manage those fears directly because they're really nothing to be afraid of. Their opportunities. And so I think we've done that. The other thing that we've done, which is maybe not that novel, but we're really rigorous around internal performance management. And performance management is the wrong term because the way we approach it is we really want to make sure that people are feeling in multiple stages throughout the year that they're getting the right feedback of, how their team is doing, how well they're doing, and how well the company is doing so they can be on the right growth trajectory for themselves. And for a small company, sometimes those things happen a little bit later when you have a full HR department, but we've done that for years and we're take it very seriously. So then when people are giving feedback on like, this doesn't make sense, or like, that was like a horrible decision, or like management is like terrible at communication. We get all of that information and action it as best we can. We do that in 6-month intervals on a rolling basis. Those are just some things that maybe a lot of companies our size do less, that I think have really helped people feel enrolled in who the company is and where the company's going, that it isn't going to be all these new faces making decisions on their behalf, that they're participating as they always have. And so that's helped us, I think, keep things together.
So usually for the CEO, you're responsible for the vision, the strategy, all of those pieces. So you've got that on your shoulder. Talk to me about what you're seeing when you look ahead, what you see the vision and future of data sciences is.
Sure. So this almost sounds, I almost hesitate to talk about AI, but everyone sort of has to. I talked earlier about our academic background. And I think that gave us a little bit of skepticism around AI. We've been doing machine learning, natural language processing for years within the analytics work that we do. For the longest time, we avoided using the terms AI because it felt like we've been doing this forever. Nothing's changed. I think we're wrong. The reality is it's a pervasive narrative, pervasive topic, but it's also technically a reality. A lot of the work in analytics today that we do We have a sort of subgroup within our analytics group called data engineering, which is maybe not the most sexy thing that we do, but it's basically bringing data into one common area that everyone agrees is the source of truth, and allows people to draw from that common area to whatever business goal that they have. And it's just making sure the data moves out an enterprise properly. AI is no different. Like any AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever it might be, you have to get good data into the model to give you good results. And so all these enterprises are jumping on AI opportunities without stopping first to say, do I have a good data strategy? I can't really have a good AI strategy if my data is in disarray. It took us longer than it should have to get to the point of, hey, we've been doing this forever. Like we actually are an AI company. And more organizations we're working with are saying, okay, I have these use cases. I want to automate customer service, or I want to automate and measure how my marketing is performing. What role does AI play in that? We are really leaned into how do we help enterprises onboard into an inevitable AI future. And it's going to keep growing. It's not getting smaller. It's not a trend or a moment in time. It's actually going to upend how enterprises operate. It's not perfectly clear all the areas it will upend, but that's the opportunity for us, is helping enterprises navigate through that. So that's a huge part of it. The other part about AI that's super interesting is we are largely a services organization. Like we're a consulting company. So we historically have sold time and provided great services to our clients. The cool thing about AI, it's a business opportunity to work with enterprises on their AI strategy. But also with AI, you can develop your own internal systems and products way more rapidly than you used to. We haven't historically been a product-led company. We have a series of use cases we've automated that our clients use. In an AI world, we can get to prototyping products that have direct applicability really rapidly. We're in development right now with a product we hope to launch soon called Geospectrum, which allows enterprises to understand, almost like the days of search engine optimization in Google. Like, how does my brand show up in a search engine? They're asking the same questions. Like, how do I make sure my brand finishes well when I go to ChatGPT and say, what are the best yoga pants to wear in the winter? Like if you're, I don't know, some whatever yoga company that's top of mind, you want to finish in that. The way you get to that point is very different than how you would have performed in a search-based world. So we're building a product to help brands assess where they sit in the ecosystem of large language models and AI. The beautiful thing about that product is we've been at it for less than 30 days of development. Very small team doing amazing things, and are getting to prototype with actual clients from ideation to beta launch in a month. When I think about the future, I'm actually glad it's less clear. No one really knows exactly how this is going to play out, but we are in the middle of it, seeing use cases that have applicability to multiple enterprises. And it's not a question of like, let's hire 40 engineers and build this for a year. That just doesn't exist. Let's hire one person and build it in a month and see what happens. We're leaning all in on AI automation and what we call AI readiness, helping organizations get ready for their own use cases, but also taking common use cases that we think a bunch of enterprises are going to leverage, automate those, and bring those back to the market.